Welcome to the Starfish Diaries. I am your host, Liz McKean, and you might have found me from another podcast or from yoga or through coaching or maybe a recovery event, but all that matters is that you're here now, and I am so glad that you're here. On this show, we're going to be talking about identity and self-trust and recovering from all sorts of things, including shame and burnout and squeezing ourselves into what we think good looks like. And I'm going to use a lot of metaphors because that's how I make sense of the world. And I'm hoping that helps you too. I'm really just here to remind you and honestly remind us that there is no such thing as doing life wrong and that you do get to make your life into a place that you want to be. And we're going to figure it out together. So let's go. Hello and welcome, or welcome back, or both. I'm so glad that you're here, and I actually have an idea of what I want to talk about. I have a little story to tell you. I didn't record last week, so it feels like a homecoming back onto the mic, and I'm so delighted to have you here. So real quick little housekeeping thingamajigger. Just a reminder that my website is live. So if you have any desire to learn more about me or possibly work with me for hypnosis sessions or coaching sessions, I would love that. All you got to do is go to lizmckeen.com, and that is linked in the show notes. And also a new podcast launched last week, the week of Thanksgiving, with myself and my co-host with the Mo-host, Bryce the Third. And that podcast is called The Friend Lab. So we're cooking up some friendship experiments up in there. So it's a very different vibe than this one. Of course, there's two of us. We are talking about connection and friendship and just really anything that comes to us that relates to those two topics. So I hope you check that out. It's everywhere you get podcasts. And I also hope if you're here, you have clicked subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. And yeah, it makes a really big difference in podcast land. We work hard to create episodes and love it so very much when you subscribe so that you can listen. So anyways, so glad you're here. Done with that. Let's take a couple deep breaths together, right? We're going to do 2 today. So unclench your jaw, see if you can soften your shoulders a little bit. And then when you're ready, take a deep breath in through your nose and out with a sigh. Nice. This one we're going to hold. So big breath in through your nose. Hold at the top. Maybe you feel your ribcage expand. If you can, keep holding. Maybe you drop your shoulders even with that held breath. And when you're ready, open your mouth. Let it go. Good job. Cool. Thanks for breathing with me. I always need that. And I've gotten some really nice feedback from people who have seemed to enjoy that as well. So yay for deep breaths that we all could use. So the thing I wanted to talk about today actually is kind of on the topic of taking deep breaths when we could use one. I wanted to tell you a little bit about my dog, Griffin. And even if you're not a dog person, I promise this will still apply. It is actually a human story. I'm just using Griffin as my little analogy. So Griffin is he's a rescue. He's a mixed breed. A lot of what he is Rhodesian Ridgeback, which I didn't really know very much about that breed until we got them. But when my husband and I got him, we Googled, and the first thing it says under Rhodesian Ridgebacks is that they're very sensitive. And we're like, well, that's funny. And then we got to know him. We're like, that's accurate. He's a very sensitive boy. He's a big, giant ball of emotion, which is why we get along so well. We understand each other. So Griffin feels things very intensely. I can relate. I bet you can relate too. So when something really good happens, like one of us comes home, whether we've been gone for hours and hours or days and days, or, just took garbage out and 30 seconds later, Billy walks back into the house and Griffin is like, hallelujah, you have returned to me. That is big excitement. Or the word treat was said, or somebody told him he was such a good boy. And sometimes it just comes out of nowhere. He just had big feelings. Also, there could be really big feelings that are on the other side of the spectrum. Like maybe he remembered that the cats exist in the house and sometimes get attention. Maybe me or my husband are away from the house for longer than he'd like. Again, could be 30 seconds, could be 3 days. And those are really big feelings. And when he has those really big feelings, one thing that I have always really appreciated and admired about Griffin, well, first of all, is his really cute little face with his little sad eyes and his little wrinkly, worried forehead. But what he will do when he's like clearly very elevated with these big feelings, he will run to one of his toy boxes. Yes, we are that couple that has multiple toy boxes. And he will get a bone and he will go and he will just chew the hell out of that bone. He will chew it like his life depends on it. And he's just getting every little bit of that emotion out into that bone. And it is just such a healthy way for him to deal with all those big feelings. Another thing that he'll do is if we, are out for a walk and we walk by another dog and that dog freaks out, which Griffin doesn't really, I think he just doesn't identify as a dog, so he doesn't even react. But other dogs, they got stuff to say to him. So they will, do their little barky thing. And afterwards, when they're like out of range or whatever, he will shake his whole body from the top of his head to the end of his tail just to get that energy out, because clearly he did have it gave him a feeling. So between the shaking and the chewing, and if you have a dog that chews stuff that he's not supposed to chew, I would imagine it's probably the same thing. There's a big emotion that needs to get out, right? And I know what is it, that word? My brother and sister always tell me, anthropomorphizing. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. I'm so sorry. Giving human emotions to an animal, but I'm sorry, he's my child. What can I tell you? But that is a really cool thing that dogs do. And I think animals in general have that ability to get out the thing that they are feeling so that they can move on because their survival depends on it if they're out in the wild, which Griffin is not and would not survive. Sorry, buddy. He's laying right behind me, probably feeling very judged. We are actually really good at this too, right? We cope. When we feel big things, we all have ways that we navigate that. And for some reason, for many reasons, for reasons that I'm not going to go into right now because I'll probably go on a total rant, our culture, society, whatever, is very moralizing. We like to moralize things. And one of the things we moralize is the way we react to big feelings. That usually shoves those things into those coping mechanisms and even those feelings into a dark corner somewhere. And I feel like you'll probably recognize that dark corner. Yours might look very different than mine. But those dark corners are where we'll find ourselves having handfuls of M&Ms. That is where we'll find ourselves, pouring drink after drink, or maybe not even bothering to pour it. Those dark corners are where we'll find ourselves scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and knowing that we're missing something, maybe our entire life, but just not being able to just disentangle ourselves from that because there is a part of us, a really wise, a really loving part of us that is recognizing that there is a big feeling happening. So I got to do something about it. I got to chew on that bone, and if there's not a bone to chew on, then maybe I have to make it go away because I'm not at baseline. I'm not centered. I'm not okay. It's like all these flags are going up. Our nervous system's throwing every kind of flag. And this is obviously like a really compressed and simplified conversation about nervous systems. I'm not trying to be a scientist today or really any day. But in general, we are going to reach for a thing just like Griffin reaches for his bone. But Griffin likes himself just as much before he chewed on that bone as he does after he chewed on that bone. But for all the reasons, you and I feel very differently. We're mad at ourselves for reaching for the thing, the wine, the weed, the M&Ms, the phone, the video game, the whatever the hell. And I know there's a much bigger, many other things that I could list. Those are just like the first that come to mind. And yeah, we're mad at ourselves for reaching for it. As we're doing it, we're not even really enjoying it. I mean, a lot of us are doing it like in the literal darkness of night, secretively, because this is so shameful that we're having the big feeling to begin with, that we want the thing. And now that we're giving ourselves the thing, we're certainly not enjoying the thing because the thing is so full, like, with shame and moralizing. And then afterwards, you know, again, there's just that judgment. There's that, I mean, sometimes literal hangover from it, but often it's just like the emotional, like, oh, here I did it again. And then comes the promises. I'm going to change this. I'm going to get it together on Monday, on January 1st, you know, tomorrow, whatever. Like, never again. Like, how many times have we said that about so many things? And I don't know about you, but that has been helpful and worked for me exactly 0 times. When I'm a jerk to myself and like just hate on myself, it's like there's literal multiple versions of me happening in my head at the same time, where there's the part that's like, I'm just trying to help, and then there's the other part that's like, screw you, why would you do such a thing? And we've talked about this before in other, I think there was like 2 episodes ago, the coping is not the enemy. But just to give it a little bit more context, to flesh this out a little bit, like, that battle becomes its own stressor that then again requires you to grab for whatever tool it is that is making you feel better in the moment. So I would just like to, for a moment, suggest or offer up that we set down our arms, our judgment, our fists that we're using to beat the hell out of ourselves, just because we are trying so hard to feel better. Because if Griffin felt guilty every time he chewed on his bone, I mean, what the hell would that do? Then he just, either can't enjoy chewing on the bone, it's not going to work next time, or he now feels just as bad as he did before. So the thing that's supposed to help ends up hurting. And if that bone starts to be something that is hurting, like actually hurting him, right? Like if he's got a broken tooth and he is chewing on that bone and his mouth is bleeding and he's getting an infection and everything, like he just needs another tool, because there's always going to be big emotions, right? There's always going to be big things that are happening. There's always going to be a reason to need to regulate. Again, whether that is like a really big joy thing, a really big grief thing, pain thing, and everything in between. And so I think the key here, or like the answer, is not to just be like, don't do that anymore, you bad guy, you bad person, you bad me, you know, you bad Griffin, whatever. No, the answer is to recognize that something is causing some discomfort, some pain. You know, there's quite a spectrum of that. And that maybe we need a new tool. And that's really easier said than done. Like, I don't say that to imply that, like, okay, easy, there you go, I fixed all your problems, bye. I'd be very rich if that was the case. No, I'm saying that because I think there's no way to move forward and find those new tools until we let go of the shame and the beating up of ourselves for the old ones. And I don't know about you, but if I set down a thing that I am using to feel better, I still need something to help me feel better. And there's no shame in that. So often, for me, that requires just the pause, right? The understanding or knowledge or self-honesty, I guess, that like there's a thing that I keep doing that's hurting me. I'm going to use M&Ms as the example because it feels kind of like a relevant for me today. I am eating a lot of M&Ms, and I know there is something in me that is just feeling a little stressed. It's an intense season. Holidays are really wonderful and also incredibly challenging for me. I know I'm not alone in that. And I reach for sugar during those times. And luckily, or unluckily, sugar is very available at this time of year. So I'm eating a lot of M&Ms. And it helps, right? In the moment, it's like, whew, I feel great. Love these M&Ms. But after a certain amount of days even, I feel like shit. Like my head hurts. I'm like full but not satisfied. Like there's a lot of icky body things that are happening, and it messes with my sleep. My mind feels a little fuzzier. There's a lot of things that, and I'm not trying to shame anyone for eating M&Ms. I will not stop eating M&Ms, but I know that when I rely on them as heavily as I tend to, there are negative consequences. So instead of saying, okay, I'm an asshole, I'm never going to eat M&Ms again, I know that won't work. Now I just have all I can think about is M&Ms. Instead, I need to find something else. I need to know that I'm doing that. And next time I have that impulse to reach for them, that awareness is just like a little seed that was planted, and I can pause. And in that pause, I can do a lot of things, right? Maybe I just take a couple deep breaths like we did at the beginning of this episode. Maybe it's just as simple as, and just notice what's going on in my body, what's going on in my mind, what's going on in the physical environment around me. And then I get to decide, do I want to reach for the M&Ms? Is that actually what I want right now? Because it might be. It's totally okay if it is. Or am I probably going to feel like shit afterwards? So I need a new thing. I need another thing. I'm not going to say just don't do anything, sit and grin and bear it, because I just don't function that way. But it might be, I need to take a break and go for a walk, or go to the gym, or jump up and down, or drink a crap ton of water, or have some hot tea. I love me some hot tea. Maybe it's even, I'm going to scroll for 15 minutes because that will just give my brain a break, but won't give me a headache later. Or maybe it will, right? This is going to be different for every single person. And if the thing that you're doing feels like, okay, doesn't matter, I could pause all I want and I can't stop doing this thing and it is literally killing me, then that's a whole nother conversation, right? Like that's a time that it's like, all right, well, what help can I get? How can I go outside of myself now? And instead of reach for the thing that's hurting me, I reach for the phone. I reach for a person I trust. I reach for, maybe I Google, like where is some support near me that I can get? If you are in that place and what you are reaching for is a substance that you're really struggling with and you want to stop, then, please reach out to me because I can point you in a few different directions. Because you don't have to do that alone either. But often, and what I'm really talking about for today, because this is I think incredibly common throughout the holiday season, especially. We all are really, really hard on ourselves. And it's okay to need something to feel better. And you know what? If you're eating a bunch of M&Ms, if you're, having a couple glasses of wine and that's safe for you, if you're scrolling Instagram and it's making you feel better, and when you put it down, you're able to, feel more like yourself because you just took a little brain break, great. That is great. I am not telling you not to use those tools if they are working for you. That is great. No judgment. Ever, ever, ever. But if you are if you are doing any of those things and you feel like shit, and or you're being really mean to yourself about it, then try the pause. And then after the pause, try to give yourself something else. Again, maybe it's a few deep breaths. Maybe you're going to have to try a few different things. And if you need some help with that, that's what I do. You can go to my website. You can schedule a little call with me for free where we can talk about ways I might be able to support you, either with coaching, which involves a lot of, discussion and goal setting and really like exploration into what it is you've got going on and what it is you want to change. And if that is the thing that I can help with, if that is the thing you want me to help with. Also might fall into the realm of hypnosis sessions, which I'm going to do a whole nother episode about hypnosis and what that is, because there's a lot of misconceptions about that. But I'll say briefly here, it could be as simple as just an hour where you feel really, really incredibly relaxed. Maybe we do a little visualization. Maybe every part of your body gets to just soften and melt in a way that hopefully will stay with you for a little while. And maybe we go even deeper, because really all hypnosis is a just heightened suggestibility. So like when you're watching a movie and something scary happens and you jump, right? Like, you know, your conscious mind knows that you're fine. You're sitting on your couch. You're very safe. But that movie, that whole experience of staring at the screen, and you very intentionally, like full consent, have like sat down and looked at this screen knowing that you want to be entertained in this way, because you can't be hypnotized if you don't want to be. So you've sat down allowing yourself to be hypnotized, which just means that you're just dropping below the level of consciousness. You're going into subconscious, where there's a part of you that is just incredibly suggestible. So when they say something scary, you jump, right? Like there's got to be like a suggestion that you are believing down under that conscious self in order for you to jump, right? Your heart rate goes up. You can't just do that sitting here thinking with your conscious mind, but your subconscious mind that we get to in hypnosis can do that. Can affect your heart rate. And if it can make it go up, we can make it go down. If you can feel elevated and jump because it's scary, we can do the opposite and suggest that maybe things are okay. Maybe you're okay. And you get to be part of that whole conversation. You're deciding to watch the movie, metaphorically. So that's an option too, and one that I would really like to explore with you. And if none of that sounds good, and if you don't want to do anything with anybody else, you just want to take care of you, that is A-okay. I invite you to notice the thing that you're doing, that you're judging yourself for. Maybe decide if it's worth judging. I'm guessing it probably isn't. And if you want to change it, give yourself the gift of a pause. That was a really long pause, wasn't it? It was an unintentional pause for effect. All right, so that's where we're going to stop for today. This was not meant to be a sales podcast. But when I talk about this stuff, it's hard not to say that, like, I can help you with it. So I'm probably going to say that a lot more. And that doesn't mean that there's ever any pressure. You being here and listening to this podcast, pressing play once in a while or every week, it makes a really big difference. So I'm really grateful that you're here and that you're listening. I hope that you hit subscribe. If you're enjoying the show, if you would like to give a rating and review wherever you're listening, that really does move the needle for a podcast. That really does make a difference. It's an incredible way to support myself and any other podcasters you happen to listen to. So highly encourage you to take that very small step. And I know it's one of those things that's so easy to do, but like it's also weird that we just don't do it, because I have a lot of podcasts I love that I'm sure if I went through my list, I would be like, oh, damn, I still haven't hit 5 stars on those. So again, no judgment, no obligation. Just glad that you're here. All right, so let's do some breathing, all right? Because I need some deep breaths, and I bet you do too, because when do we ever not? All right, so wherever you are, find that same little bit of relaxation, right? Unclench your jaw. Maybe drop your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Isn't that weird how it's just stuck up there all the time? Let your shoulders relax, and notice when you breathe in if your shoulders go way, way up. Isn't that funny? They're not attached to your lungs. Why do we do that? I do that too. I don't know. All right, so big breath in through your nose. Big exhale with a sigh. Yeah, we're going to do 2 more. So big breath in through your nose. Slow breath out of your mouth. Good job. 1 more. This is going to be the biggest breath you've taken all day. Go for it. Hold at the top. Feel that rib cage expand. Hold the breath in, but see if you can relax the shoulders. One more little sip of air. Let it go with some noise. You're amazing. I adore you. Whatever you are doing to get through this season, please take care of you. Be nice to you. You deserve it. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Starfish Diaries. I want to take a quick moment to thank some of the people who have made this possible. The artwork that I am so in love with is by my friend and the most talented artist, Mo Houston, and you can find her and her work and work with her by going to Joy Scout Studios. I will have that linked in the show notes. And thank you to my incredible editor, Sean Gritters. If you are looking for production support with your podcast, highly recommend that you check him out. His information will also be in the description.